הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברכים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברכים גם יחד. How good it is,
How good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Hine ma tov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine ma tov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Now I have access to the system, and I can change anything that needs be.
All right, well, we'll adjust after the song.
Oop, I just touched a mute.
You're doing another.
Oh,
You have to get another. You're leaving?
so let's all, Shabbat Shalom, let's all turn to 665 because we are in a Passover mode. We're going to do a beautiful traditional melody to Bechol Dor Vador. In every generation, one must look upon oneself as if he, she personally had come out of Egypt. If you know it, please sing along. Bechol Dor Vador, hayav Adam lirot et atzmo כאילו יצא ממצרים. Try with me. בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. בכל דור ודור יצא ממצרים. That really reminds you of the old days. Harvey, do you know this melody? How do you sing Bechol Dor Vador at your Seder? Or don't you? You just read it?
I think it's one of the wonderful principles of Passover, this idea that we're supposed to feel like we experience it. It's a wonderful educational principle, right? The Seder is actually a model of how we educate one another. What a great thing. How are we doing? Is it good? Okay.
Or actually check in with ourselves yearly.
Yeah,
Kind of
definitely.
like Yom Kippur.
And who is tired of matzah? We're so glad to be together. This is actually our Passover service. We had one earlier, but last week we didn't have our Friday night service. So this is kind of the Friday night service for some of you. Raise your hand if this is still Passover. Okay. Raise your hand if you're done with that Passover, yeah?
We have the Reforms and the Reconstructionists in the room, right?
Yeah, it's quite something, and it's okay to disagree, right? It's like the old joke where someone walks into the synagogue and they see half the people standing for the Shema, half the people sitting, and they're very confused what to do because they're a newcomer. So they start asking, and they go to the rabbi, and the rabbi says, "That's the tradition." The funny thing is, that really was our tradition at Shir Shalom for a little while. Why don't I invite over Bruce Korus to offer our welcome.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Happy it's over, or happy it's almost over. As the rabbi said, this is that weird night where, you can't be wrong. If you had pizza for dinner tonight, you were right. If you're waiting to have pizza for dinner tomorrow night, you're right. The only way you're wrong is if you just don't have pizza. Then you're wrong. I actually was in communication with the rabbi earlier this week. We had a very interesting discussion at our Seder about the fact that the 4 questions are not 4 questions. They're 4 statements. So he might work on that a little bit. Passover mythology and misconceptions. Because think about it. Only Jews would have statements and make them into questions. It's the Jewish mother thing. Mom, how are you feeling? How should I be feeling? Anyway, whatever you feel, we're either done or almost done, and it was a wonderful Passover. I hope everyone enjoyed and was able to be with family and friends and all of that. But we're back together for a service. We have 2 healthy clergy tonight, which is nice. Dr. Yanina Foster is here sitting in and enjoying the service instead of getting that last-minute phone call saying you're leading the service tonight.
Well, Bruce, I just went toot, 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 poo, poo, poo.
Good.
3 times on this side and 3 times on that side.
Good. We don't want to put a kahora on it. So I know you've been wondering about the mask thing, so let me mention it briefly. As I've been saying for more than 2 years, we are always going to err on the side of caution. We're always going to think of your safety, and we're going to follow whatever guidelines we think are best. And we made a decision this week at our board meeting Tuesday night. The board voted on it and approved it unanimously, and that's that we're going to go back to masking for now. This is not we're going to go back to masking forever. This is not an indefinite thing. We think it's not going to be long-term. But in the meantime, we think it's best. And I know that I've not gotten any pushback from anyone. And I'm here. I'll be happy to discuss it if anyone wants to ask questions about it. But like I've said, from the beginning, we will always think of your safety first. And we've been doing that for over 2 years now, since March of 2020. And we will continue to do that. So that's the guideline for now. We'll keep you posted if it changes. And in the meantime, enjoy a lovely Shabbat service with the rabbi and the cantor and Paul. A nice little change. And technology, the equipment working, unlike poor Yanina a couple weeks ago when we were scrambling. So enjoy the service. I'll be back with the announcements. We have a lot of stuff coming up in the next couple weeks. including something that Walter's very interested in. See you in a bit.
Well, Bruce, we're going to really freak you out because there actually are 5 questions in the Talmud, so we'll have to. But there's one that's missing, so there's actually a missing one. Yeah.
Well, Bruce, it helps to turn on the system when I'm not here.
Yeah, see, Cantor has the keeper of not only her wonderful voice, but she knows all the technology better than anyone.
You actually have to turn it on.
That's
For it
like
to work.
the old
It's like-
joke about,
It just
I don't know.
wasn't turned on.
They always used to tell the joke about someone sitting, about to get fried in the electric chair, and they try all these things. And it turns out the one points to the cord. You just didn't plug it in. Right?
Oh.
Yeah. So just to let you know, I really appreciate all your prayers. I did come through COVID. It all worked out fine. It was a really difficult 6 days, I'd say. But thankfully, I'm doing better. And our family actually last week was going to go to West Orange to see my sister-in-law and all the family. We made it to the Pocono Mountains, and then my wife started feeling sick. So we had to turn all the way around. So it's one of those kind of stories that a lot of us are way too familiar. I told our family that we had 2 pandemic Passovers. Now we had a true COVID Passover. So, and thankfully, my wife didn't actually have COVID. Why don't I bring over Yonina? Dr. Foster did a wonderful job for us. If you could just light our candles over here. We are so blessed to have her in our community to step up. Both Cantor and I had a pretty rough time, and Dr. Foster not only led the Friday night service, but navigated a bar mitzvah the very next day, and we're very grateful to have her in our community. The candle lighting can be found on 120. Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. May the candles light our way through the end of Passover and Shabbat. If you want to lift up the Kiddush cup that is still not yet full, one of these days when Elijah stops in, he'll have something to drink. We're going to recite the blessing, page 123.
Would you like to do it, Anita? It's up to you.
Part or the whole part? A little bit?
Oh, whatever. We'll do it together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uv'ratzon, Hinchilanu zikaron lemase bereshit ki hu yom techila b'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta Ve'otanu kidashta mikani Shabbat kodecha ve'ahava uv'ratzon hinkatanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Hashem.
Amen. L'chaim. We're going to welcome in Shabbat officially, page 138 for L'chadodi. And we're going to sing the first and the last verses. On the last verse, we'll face our doorway over there, and we'll symbolically welcome in Shabbat, the Shabbat bride, into our room, and we will bow to her and then welcome one another by waving our kingly and queenly waves.
Lecha dodi likra yala la yala la yala la pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra yala la yala la yala la pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'sachar v'dibor echad. השביענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, יאללה יאללה יאללה, פני שבת נקבלה. פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת צבאה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך כיבודי ים סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי לקרא כלה, יאללה יאללה יאללה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקרא כלה, יאללה יאללה יאללה, פני שבת נקבלה.
And before you sit down, we're ready to stand for our call to community, page 146 for the Baruch.
Baruch et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
We'll remain standing, page 148. On the bottom, let's read together in the English, 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the times and changes the seasons, and arranges their stars and their heavenly courses according to plan. You are a creator of day and night, rolling back light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Sfot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. We continue on page 150 with Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובכל Kihen Hayenu the Orbach Yameru Vaham Neger Yomam Valayla V'avatecha hatasim imenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shen Kivod Malkuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shen Kivod Malkuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. We continue on 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'adecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shochtecha v'vikumecha v'kshartam le'ot hayadecha ve'ayu letotafot beinecha uchtavtam hamezusot b'techa v'vishabrecha leman tizkeru v'asitem ekol mitzvotai v'yitem kidoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem Hashem hotziti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
One of the ways we can look at the Jewish year is a series of concentric circles, all that are always coming back to the same themes. And we can see this in the story of Exodus, which we tell, of course, at Passover, but we also tell it in January when we read it in the Torah. And we also do it every single Shabbat and every day when we come to the story of the Exodus right before the Amidah and in that standing prayer as we imagine ourselves crossing the sea. In this way, we're not just doing it during Passover, we're actually doing it all the time. So we're going to turn to that theme on page 158 with a Standing at the Sea, a version of Mi Chamocha that I think you're familiar with.
Standing at the sea, Mi Chamocha, standing at the sea, Mi Chamocha, standing at the sea, Mi Chamocha, freedom's on our way. Hang on. Okay, I got it. They're walking through the water, Mi Chamocha, walking through the, try with me. Mika mocha, walking through the water. Mika mocha, freedom's on our way. Freedom, 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 freedom's on our way. On the other side, Mika mocha, on the other side, Mika mocha, on the other side, Mika mocha, freedom's on our way. Singing and a dancing, Mika mocha, singing and a dancing, Mika mocha, singing and a dancing, Mika mocha, freedom's on our way. Freedom, 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 freedom's on our way. One last freedom, everyone. Freedom, 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 freedom's on our way.
Before we do our next song, which will be on 161, I would like to share with you a prayer that Sheila had written, and it has to do with Ukraine. And she's been talking lately with the father over at the church that came to visit us, and he's extremely worried about what's going on. He asked us specifically to pray for the people of Mariupol. And I think it's really important as the war drags on that we continue to keep our prayers and not forget that amidst all the other things in this world that we continue to hope and pray that will come to an end soon and that there can be peace. So Sheila Bernard Tucker had written this. I am Muslim, I am Sikh, I am Baha'i, Buddhist too. I am strength, I am passion, beating in every heart. I'm a Ukrainian Jew. We are song, we are prayer, we are the candle's restless flame. I am you, you are me, not at all different, but very much the same. We are endless tears of goodbyes. We are women holding rifles into the night. I am you that now has become us. Together we walk into the night. Please join me and Cantor in really sending out our prayers to that awful atrocities happening across the world. We're going to turn to, again, 161 at the top, Let There Be Love, and may this go right out to the people who most need to hear it.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Ashkivenu Amrenu l'chaim ufros aleinu Sukkot shalom echad Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Hashkivenu L'shalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
I invite you to rise. We're going to continue with our silent Amidah meditation, starting on 164 till page 180. Feel free to read in the Hebrew, the English, or just your own private prayers, and we'll resume services in just a few minutes. I can feel the holiness of this space. Just wonderful to be present here. There's something about our collection that comes together, particularly when we have all our Yisker candles lit. There's a real sense of holiness in this space. We're going to invoke that, thinking about those in need of healing, and the prayer we're going to use is in your leaflet. I'm going to read our list of names, and if you have others, just afterwards, just raise your hand, and I will go around the room. Those of you joining us from afar, you could write in your names online if that's possible. As a community, we are sending our healing prayers out to Rachel Anderson, Sally Anderson, Judy Bardak, Sean Behrens, Stephen Bernstein, William Wade Boker, Ebony Burse, Vito Cavallari, Dolores Denzel, Sue Frank, Nancy Hersbrunn, Tracy Kassman, Gail Kleberg, Mark Nightinger, Manny Queechin, Peter Mackler, Helene Mesh, Jill Shire Monahan, Brandon Ryan, Cheryl Rossi, Barry Schoenfield, David Shevat, Christopher Smith, Paul Staley, Margaret Stevenson, Athena Tucker Pasiak, Jean Turansky, Anita Wiesel, Hannah Ezra Ben Shuel, Sarah Gittel Bat Chaya Vedina, and Ellie Ben Moshe. And we'll go around, and if you have other names.
Stephanie Bantam.
Just McKissick and Sarah Taya Field down the lake.
Controversial, then Soil, Roger Marchione, Linda Vegas.
We collect all those names in our heart, and again, I think it's going to be in your leaflet. You'll see the prayer somewhere. Oh, okay, there wasn't room for it, but I think a lot of you are familiar. It's a repeating one, so by
Just-
now I think they know it.
Just kind of repeat after me. El na rifana, please, please heal her. Speaking about Miriam. Dear God of our ancestors,
Dear God of our ancestors,
help us renew our faith.
help us renew our faith.
Grant us a perfect healing.
Grant us a perfect healing.
Bring peace to all our days.
Bring peace to all our days.
Restore strength of body.
Restore our strength of body.
Help clarify our minds.
Help clarify our minds.
Refresh our tired spirits.
Refresh our tired spirits.
Rejuvenate our life.
Rejuvenate our lives.
Thank you for all these blessings.
Thank you for all these blessings.
Throughout our days and nights.
Throughout our days and nights.
We celebrate the journey.
We celebrate the journey.
This precious gift of life.
This precious gift of life. A complete healing of body and soul. May all those who need it hear our prayers. All those amongst us who need our prayers feel supported on their journeys and hope that they can be restored to full health. So Cantor wanted to tell you during Let There Be Love, they were doing the round. Did you hear them? Yeah. I heard Harvey. He was doing a wonderful job. So I want to start by looking at something on page 148 that we read that really stood out to me tonight and is, I think, important in terms of a concept. We read, "Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, and changes the seasons." So I wanted to focus on that. There is a sense that time, calendars, dates is kind of part of the mechanics, the mechanism of the world. That there is the dates and times that we get are so ingrained into what we do, they just feel like they've always been present. So if I was going to ask you now what time it was, I bet we could get a pretty exact time. What time do we got? 20 to 8. That's what I got. Everyone got pretty much the same. And what if I was going to ask you what date it was? You'd say April 22nd, right? 20. What's that? It's Earth Day, yeah. So there's a lot of things that we have just a collective agreements about. Time, calendars, days of the week, those are all things that we've come to largely an agreement. But there actually are many disagreements in the world. There actually are over 40 calendars that are out there. You probably know some of them. Obviously, the Jewish calendar, we're familiar with that here, the Islamic calendar, the Chinese calendar, but there's basically many different communities have different calendars. Most of them rely on the similar lunar or solar, or like our Hebrew calendar, which is solar and lunar together. And they sort of operate in the same way. They might have different names for things, but roughly they're in the same ballpark. But we will notice in time, there are times where there is disagreement. Mostly you see this in religious communities. I remember a number of years ago, I went to a Ramadan celebration. And I noticed about half the people were leaving at 8:20 to eat, and another half were leaving at 8:50 to eat. That they had a huge disagreement about when you were allowed to eat based on the time. There's even disagreements in terms of Ramadan when it starts and when it ends. There are many different groups and different places that hold different ways. We, of course, know Easter. The Eastern Orthodox has a very different date. They rely on the Julian calendar, which is a different, slightly different than our Gregorian calendar that we mostly rely on. And so there are discrepancies. They also have different things in there. It always has to occur after Passover, which is different than in the Roman Catholic or most of the other churches they do. So we're sort of familiar. Within our Jewish community, of course, it's very confusing. We already went in. We have roughly half the people celebrating Passover and half of it not. And this leads to huge disagreements. Every year, Harvey and I, there'll be a bar or bat mitzvah that's coming up, and we have to figure out, what do we do? What do we do on this weekend? On a normal, if this is a normal week, so the discrepancy, let me just clarify, okay? So biblically, there are 7 days of Passover. And 7 days of Passover, according to the calendar that we have, would end tonight. That would be the end. But in the in Galut, in the diaspora, we often add an 8th day. So the 8th day would mean that Passover would end Saturday night. This difference, which if you look, I always go to hebcal.com. That's a wonderful website. It's probably 20 years old, to the early days of the internet, believe it or not. And if you go on there, you can find any date on the calendar. One of the things, when you can set up your own calendar, and it can even go into your calendar, which is It's amazing. So if you want to be able to get all that and track it on your normal calendars, you can do that. HEBCAL, I think it's maybe .org. .com, it is .com, okay. So when you go there, it will have a little notation, Israel calendar or diaspora calendar. And if you have an Israel calendar, it actually will be very different. Where will it be different? In the Torah readings, of course. Because if it's Passover today, then there is a special Passover reading from the book of Exodus. Actually, I think it shifts maybe to Deuteronomy on the Shabbat, but it is Passover themed. It would be from a completely different section. If it is during the regular week, we would be in Acharei Mot, which is in Leviticus. And what happens is there's always several weeks in between where there's confusion. What do you do? One of the ways that we correct this is with double portions. So this year happens to be a leap year. And on a leap year, we add an entire month. So instead of being 354 days, our calendar is 384 days long. Very, very confusing, okay? So we have a whole month that was added back around February, right before Purim. And that will mean that we don't have a lot of double portions during this year at all. I think there really aren't any. But there's a way to kind of catch up. You can, because there's 54 Torah portions, so you can kind of smush them together, and eventually you get to the end. But you will have very big disagreements. Another thing that happens often between the seventh day and the eighth day, because there are people like my sister-in-law who is making Aliyah this year. That's why we were hoping to go to West Orange, because she'll be going to Israel, and it'll be harder for us to see her. When she gets there, she'll be a 7-day Passover person, a 7-day Sukkot person. And even if she comes to America, this is an anomaly. If she comes to America and it's during Passover, she still, as long as she's the majority of time in Israel, she still would be a 7-day Passover person and be Orthodox. And you would only have one Seder, of course. 2 Seders are part of the diaspora tradition. So these kind of things are really can create a lot of divisions. I spoke about in my Torah thoughts one of the great calendar controversies. I wanted to take you a little closer into it just to show you how the calendar, a little difference, can be huge. You know, when there is a problem in the community, a disagreement over it, it can throw off every single part of the calendar, one little bit. So back in 921 CE, so roughly 1,100 years ago, which is kind of cool. Back then, but believe it or not, there already was a established calendar. Oops, sorry. The established calendar that we have now actually goes all the way back to the 4th century CE. So it's very old, where there was established exactly what the calendar. It's not as easy as today where you just press a button, but they had almost everything calculated. And that's a very big deal. In the Muslim world, often they are waiting to see the new moon. And that's one of the discrepancies that can occur. If it's a cloudy night and you can't see the sky, they have to wait another day. But there happened to be this one little discrepancy that was still available on the calendar. And it was a very rare event. It had to do with Rosh Hashanah and where the new moon, when it appeared precisely. And if it occurred around what we would say noon time, they had slightly different ways of talking about time. If it was within 35 minutes of it, you would have to wait for Rosh Hashanah for a couple of days. And there happened to be this Rabbi Meir, who was sort of an obscure rabbi who was living in, I think, the Palestine, Israel area. And he looked at the notes, and he said in this particular year, 921, that there should be an extra 2 days before Rosh Hashanah. And he announced this to his community. But back in 921, word did not travel very fast. Things would go, but maybe it would take a couple of months before it would get. And it eventually got to the most famous rabbi of the time period. What we call, his name is Sadia Gaon, and that means that he was the leader of the community. He actually wasn't quite yet at this year, but he would be, and he's one of just a brilliant mind at the time. And he immediately saw that Rabbi Meir was going to cause a huge rift in our community, where half of the community would celebrate one way. We would have like an Eastern Orthodox situation, and everything would be thrown off. And so he began writing letters right away, and he was a very forceful person. And he ended up getting the point across, and they discredited Rabbi Meir. We actually don't have Rabbi Meir's notes, but this small difference that would add 2 extra days to the calendar really caused one of the biggest fights, so much so that they still, if you can look it up, it was just a huge controversy. One of the things that Sadia Gaon did that was just so interesting to me, though, is that he said time and the seasons, like in the prayer, were established by God. That they go back, even though it clearly it was not, it's something, a human agreement that we had. He went and he looked and he found, like he did as a rabbi, he actually found several biblical examples about why they knew for all time that what the lunar cycle was. He looked at during the flood, when the skies were covered in Genesis 7, that they couldn't have that the sky is covered, and they knew what the date was. In the Exodus, when there was the pillar of cloud, what we have over here, that covered the sky, they still knew the dates, so the dates must have been established. And of course, the famous story of David and Jonathan, where they look at the new moon. Each of these stories, he just was trying to prove a point, which is kind of what we assume too. We just feel like everything kind of moves one step at a time. But of course, it's all just about human agreement. Here in our community, I think we can live with a little disagreement of the calendar. We, as I wrote, find the middle ground. We're not going to read the Torah portion for Leviticus so that we can be in line with all of our neighboring synagogues this week. But we're also not quite in Passover. So as you can see on the table, we have our double plate, 1 plate of matzah, 1 plate of challah. I think, personally, a little disagreement is okay. Maybe that's the way, it's kind of a better way to have a society that we don't always have to be so in line with each other, but we find a way to compromise so that we can be together on our holidays. And perhaps that's the lesson. Hopefully we won't have those kind of divisions like we had back in the days of Sadia Gaon. Cantor told me that she has prepared a special song that I think you're going to like for Passover.
Something to do with Passover. Get one last one in.
One last time.
Till next year.
Hilu Hotzianu, Hotzianu, Mivitzrayim, Hotzianu, Mivitzrayim, Dayenu. Everyone. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Hilu Natan, Natan lanu, Natan lanu et Shabbat, Natan lanu et Shabbat, Dayenu. Everyone. Dayenu. Last time. Dayenu. 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 Dayenu.
Now, how old is that Dayenu song? Is that from Sinai?
Not that old.
Yeah. We can imagine like them singing it back in Moses' time, but I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, it feels like that, right?
Like
It's
the
so
50s,
popular.
the 50s.
Probably in the 50s, right? Page 586, we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu לשבח לאדוננו, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא עזבנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You may be seated on that day. May we all be one. We're going to turn to the mourner's Kaddish. Today, I read the Yisker list, and it brought tears to my eyes just to see all the people we've lost this year. It's always so hard. Chuck Korn's uncle died, Morton Korn. I don't have any details yet, but I know there will be a funeral coming up. We're also remembering Rachel M. Battisti, Arthur Dezelke, Doris Epstein, Stephen Janis, Gerda Weissman Klein, Henry New, and Carol Olashansky, all who died in the last month. On our yard-site list, both for this past week and this coming week, we are remembering Izzy Borowski, Albert Cohen, Edith Crandall, Carlton DeBozen, Norbert J. Doan Sr., Daniel Friedferdig, Sarah Gelman, Aaron Goldberg, Lillian Golden, Jenny Gorbatai, Dr. Joseph House, Hella Kaminsky, Harry Karch, Lena R. Koren, Shirley Kornblatt, Samuel Kotlov, Fanny Kranitz, Henry Lansing, Dr. Alfred Liederman, Faggy and Boris Lipsitz, Samuel Mackler, Tilly Malnikoff, Fran Moscow, Sarah Orlick, Maurice Oskowitz, Sydney L. Oskowitz, Victor Prasaznik, Joyce Rubin, Harry Tubin, Dora Wolpin, Sam Aronitz, Harvey Chazen, Daniel Morris Cohen, Isidore Falkowitz, Louis Fink, Cicely Fox, Jean Fry, Maurice Gafter, Alexander Gerstel, Leonard Goodman, Esther Karch, Saul Kaufman, Mary Kerman, Ruth Kleiman, Samuel Korus, Louis Kranitz, Beatrice Lewis, Joseph Malnikoff, Yetta Mandelkern, Kel Moore, Perry Nadell, Abraham Nosenchuk, Gertrude Uli, Abby Perlman, Dorothy Ruick, Samuel Rubin, Michael Rabitsky, Max Savasky, Belle Vera Shanin, David Schreiber, Philip Shapiro, Milton A. Silverman, Harry Starr, Rose Stolberg, Arthur Simons, Esther Turk, Henry Ullman, Benjamin Ungerleider, Fred Vogel, Milton Weinstein, Carol Wool, and David A. Zimmerman. If you have other names you'd like to offer. All those whose custom it is to rise. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598, 598. Yidkadal v'yidkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, b'chayechon v'yamachon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agalau v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam omei almaya, yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudashah b'rechu. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran b'alma v'yimaru amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Oseh shalom v'yimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. May the one who creates harmony and high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world, and we say amen.
Amen.
Zikronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. You may be seated. Invite over Bruce Chorus to offer announcements.
Shabbat Shalom again, and Hag Sameach. Thank you to Sheila Bernard Tucker for being our service greeter this evening. Thank you to Rabbi Alex and Cantor Frank for filling in for Dr. Yanina Foster tonight, and Paul Staley for a lovely service this evening. Whether we're in person or virtual, we're always together for Shabbat, and it's a wonderful thing. We do hope everyone enjoyed our second night virtual Passover Seder with Grammy Award-winning artist Joni Leeds, Rabbi Alex and Cantor Frank. We enjoyed sharing the special evening with you. Special thank you to Cantor Frank. Where are you? You're hiding. Special thank you to Cantor Frank for making all of this happen. What people don't know is there was another Grammy Award-winning artist in the mix for this. Weird Al Yankovic wanted to do it. We said, no, it's just not appropriate. So, but you never know, maybe next year. This weekend, we will have virtual Torah study at 9 a.m. tomorrow and the Shabbat morning service at 11. Both of them are via Zoom. The website will have the links. Please note that Shalom Ruach, which was originally scheduled for Sunday evening, is canceled due to a scheduling conflict. Look out for upcoming dates, and we want to thank you to Dr. Yanina Foster for all these wonderful and inspirational sessions. They're beautiful, so we thank you for that. Community Religious School is back from spring break this Sunday. The kids are back from partying on Daytona Beach and wherever else they've been, and they're back Sunday morning. Gift shop will be open many Friday nights before Shabbat services. That's between 6:30 and 7. We are having a special sale, 25% off, 50% off many items, and make offers on other items. We're clearing it out. You can also make an appointment to come to the shop at another time by calling the temple office. Okay, forget everything else I've said. Now we get to the important thing. Shevetas is back this coming Tuesday. Sure, it couldn't have been this past Tuesday when the weather was beautiful. It's going to be this coming Tuesday. Sunday's supposed to be 77. Tuesday's supposed to be like 50. Oh well. But the chicken will be hot and fresh, It's our first Shabbatas of the year. That's Tuesday from 4 to 7. Be sure to place your orders online so you can save $1 per meal. And of course, it's drive-through only. But we're very excited to be back with Shabbatas. Have you ordered yours? Why not? What have you been doing? Okay. Well, I'll see you at about, 4:30 on Tuesday? 5? When do you usually? Anyway, but we'll see you at some point. Okay. Hey, special thank you to Todd Sugarman and TLS Landscaping for clearing all of the trees and debris that fell near our outdoor worship center. We appreciate keeping Todd and his crew keeping our property always looking its best. Oh, I see Gloria and Sheldon are over here. 50 years ago tonight, there was another special Jewish tradition, which was a production of Fiddler on the Roof at Sweet Home High School. I was in it, and Gloria's son Avram was in the crew. So there's a strong, and there were a couple other temple members involved in it too, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, 50 years ago tonight, for what it's worth. We're going to continue to evaluate things, as I've mentioned earlier, and as I've been saying every Friday night for over 2 years now. But obviously this week we did make an adjustment. The board, as I mentioned, you voted unanimously to go back to requiring masks, and we'll assess it as it goes. I don't think it'll be forever, but it's a good time to do it. So, but we're going to continue to evaluate all events, protocols on a week-by-week basis, and we're always going to put your safety first. You know that. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out to Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, Todd, Joanne, or myself. We are always here for you. Jill has her hand up. A question or a comment?
Thing to add.
Thing to add.
May 6th, Women of Shir Shalom service. If you're a member of Women of Shir Shalom and you'd like to participate, please let me know.
May 6th. That's 2 weeks from tonight. The Women of Shir Shalom Shabbat, which is always a really, really nice service. So if you're a member of the Women of Shir Shalom and you would like to participate in the service, be sure to contact Jill. Are you the point person? Okay. And that's coming up 2 weeks from tonight. It's a lovely service. The rabbi does nothing that night. He just sits here like a lump and lets them do the... Right, he gets to enjoy a Friday night service. Anyway, so that's 2 weeks from tonight. Also, real quick note, if anyone is due to take the defensive driving class, we have scheduled it for June, Joanne, 18th? Saturday, June 18th. That's the day before Father's Day. Those of you that took the class in 2019, you are due for your renewal this year. And if you took it before then and you never got around to taking it again, who doesn't want to save $100 a year or so on their car insurance? Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach. Please be sure to help yourself to the Onig to go, which we took the easy way out tonight. There's no Pesadiki desserts. There's no non-Pesadiki desserts. There's fruit and chocolate. Took the easy way out. If you'd like to sponsor an Onig to go, by the way, for a special occasion or for no occasion at all, contact Joanne. We're happy to do that. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
So Bruce, when you posted that picture of you in Fiddler on the Roof on Facebook, the first person that saw it thought you were Jerry Garcia, that you were... So that really places that time and space.
I just want to know how they were able to get Fiddler. 50 years ago, it was still on Broadway then.
It was a very popular high school production back then. They were doing it a lot of places. It was 1972, yeah.
So we are going to bring in a little more Passover with a Don Olam on 625.
This is going to be very challenging for all of us. If you turn to page 625, it is said in the Sefer Torah that a Don Olam can be sung to any tune whatsoever, and that is Mi Sinai. But we are going to sing it to Dayenu. We will try this for the very first time, my very first time, and I hope we have a lot of fun with it, and be kind to yourselves, and really try hard with me. Here we go. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra V'yet Nasa B'chefsa Kol Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yacharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimlok Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Yeh B'Tifara
והוא אחד ואין שני, לחמשילו להכבירו, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה. והוא אלי וחי קולי, וצורף לי ביצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. בידו אבקיד רוחי, בהייתי שם והעירה, ואם רוחי גבייתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. די דיינו, די דיינו, די דיינו, 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 די דיינו, די דיינו, די דיינו, דיינו, דיינו. So you can tell all your friends, neighbors, and relatives, we just did that.
All right, so we need someone who's keeping Passover. So Harvey, why don't you come over here? You get the matzah and need someone who is done with Passover. Who? I'll take it. All right, come on over. Bruce is going to get the challah, okay?
Harvey's the pizza tomorrow night guy.
This is true compromise. Eh? And if Cantor and I can't eat either of these. So.
No.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. As you came in peace, may you leave in peace. Shabbat shalom. Please return your prayer books minus the leaflet to the front of the room and go get your fruit and chocolate. Shabbat shalom.